No.
We're from OutsideOurBubble.com. We've been drinking. Any case, we're from OutsideOurBubble.com, like it says in the bottom corner.
Cheers.
There. Cheers. We are here today with a couple of followers of ours, and they do not own a motor coach at this point. They are looking to go full time, and this is Rich, and this is Kevin.
Kevin?
Kyle.
Shh. Oh, I was doing this thing.
I'm sorry.
I was going to go Kevin, Kim. So I was going to do this whole thing. I knew it was Kyle.
Sorry.
Just laugh at that, okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, I knew I never messed up your name. You know that.
It's all good.
I was going to drink this whole thing, but any case, Augusto's here. Hi, Augusto. He follows us from Argentina. Any case, yeah. So the topic, guys, is you're looking to go full time, and you guys do not own a motor coach at this point.
Correct.
You're doing your research. Now listen. When we say doing research, okay, there's people that do research, and then there's people that do research, right?
Yes. There is a comfortable balance.
There's a
between the
balance,
two.
okay?
I think Rich has exceeded that balance.
Yeah. They've exceeded their allotment of being ready this, but they will be the most prepared people, I think, who has ever gone full time. And so what I mean is the first time we met Rich was last summer.
It was last September.
September.
Yep.
And at the time he was out here. He was doing work at his job, and he came out to meet us and pick our brain a little bit about full timing.
Yep.
And
They're from Virginia.
And I gave him a compliment of being that when I was talking to him, I didn't have to answer every little minute detail, because he was asking us questions of things that we would normally be answering for people he knew the answers to, so I didn't have to elaborate as much. So I give him major kudos for
Actually looking into
actually doing research before looking to go full time. So how long have you been searching or researching going full time?
It started probably a year and a half ago. We started watching these shows about tiny houses, right? Tiny luxury.
Yeah.
And the whole idea came up of how cool would it be just to travel across the United States, just to see all the little nooks and crannies of our beautiful nation. And wow, these tiny luxury homes, they have wheels, you can tow them. And we started looking at, just the whole possibility of you get a big pickup truck, you tow it. And as I'm thinking about it, I said, these tiny homes are built on basically a trailer chassis, and then it's sticks and bricks built on top of it. And how many bumps can those take until they literally break apart on the road, right?
So we're not very handy fixing those kind of
things. So back way in the day, I used to be a trucker, and then I half jokingly said to Kyle, I said, maybe I get my CDL license and become a trucker again, and we can travel across the nation, and we can make money while we're still on the road, and you can do your photography and all. And you said,
absolutely not.
Yeah, ain't gonna happen. So I quickly forgot that.
Yeah.
So literally a year ago, May, which is 1 year ago, right? I was in Texas for business for 6 days, and there was a huge camping world down there, and I had 2 days off, and I'm driving by, and I see all these coaches parked outside, and I knew that I wanted to see a 45-foot tag axle, okay? And I stopped in and I said, do you have a new 45-foot? They said, we sure do, and they showed us the whole coach. And me, anyway, he was back home. And when I walked in and I saw full refrigerator, dishwasher, oh my gosh, washer dryer, I thought Kyle will go for this. Okay,
Yeah.
so we can make this work full time. And it's meant to be driven, right?
Better than living in a trucker's cab.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
One of us would have probably been dead.
Right. So
It wasn't me.
Yeah, there was a good
so that was like May 15th last year. That started off the whole, okay, let's look into motor coaches. And since then, I've probably done easily 1,000 hours of research.
1,000 hours.
Yes.
That's an understatement.
Easily 1,000 hours on every make, every model.
Now, if I may, how long before you go full time?
Probably about another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, $1,000. Still got another 3 to 5 years to go.
Yeah.
They're
So-
going to be quite ready.
Well-
I keep trying to remind them things will change in 3 to 5 years, but
But
the benefit the
we want to be
some
ahead of the
that's
game,
right.
so when
Yeah.
we finally flick the switch to go, we don't make any expensive mistakes, because we see so many people that we've heard of make mistakes. They rush into things and it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked to a lot of people that, and we've talked about this before, where people have purchased at shows, and when they purchase at a show, the problem being is they walk in and it's the ooh and the ah factor of these motor coaches, and they purchase, and at that point, it's too late. They don't understand
The functionality,
the functionality of what they
and
just
the
bought and the
livability of it.
livability. But the worst part is when we run into the people who, hey, we just sold our house. We're 2 weeks from going to full timing. How do you guys get your mail?
Yeah.
We literally get that
Yeah.
question. I mean, we see it way too often on the blog, on the Facebook feeds and things like that. Of, you know, we just sold our house, and how are you getting mail? So no research was done. So when I
Right.
told you, I give you kudos for doing research.
Yeah.
Admittedly, a lot of research. I really meant that.
And
I
yes,
appreciate
information
that. Thanks.
will change, but you get the basics down, and you know you have to research a domicile state and how to get your mail and health
Well, we can
insurance.
keep.
and all
I
that.
think it's better to keep up to date on changes
Yeah.
than to learn everything that you need to
Oh,
know
for
in a
sure.
crash course.
Yeah.
Right. So, my philosophy is when you start motor coach shopping, so I won't mention any brands, but there was this brand, it was the first 45-foot tag axle I saw.
You
And the
got
first
suckered
one,
in.
the
With the
first one
Unos.
I was in, and I said, this has to be the best of the best. Look at the refrigerator and the washer dryer, and it's got the L shape, and I didn't know brands yet. I didn't know makes. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
And this was the first motor coach you
I
had
didn't
seen
know if
interior-wise.
it was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if it was a Chevrolet or a Mercedes in the car world, right? I just thought this has to be the best.
And it looked beautiful and everything.
It looked beautiful,
Bells
but
and
then
whistles.
starting my research, I realized, wait a minute, okay, this is not built as well as some others are, okay?
Yeah.
And that's when I realized a lot of research is going to save us a lot of money in the future.
and a lot of frustration, I think,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
So emotion, right? People purchase on emotions.
Emotion is a
For
big thing.
Emotions are usually short-lived and they cost a lot of money.
Yes.
Reality is forever lived, and it can save you a lot of money if you do it right. So that's what caused all of this research to start.
So in your researching, of course, of going, now again, the topic is going full time, not just
Right.
buying a motor coach.
Right.
That's a whole nother subject in its own, because you can buy a motor coach and still make the wrong choice in buying a motor coach, even if you're going to be just weekending it,
Yeah.
and not full timing. But when you make a decision to go full time, there's so much more involved other than just the motor coach purchase.
Correct.
It's insurance, it's health insurance, it's driver's license,
Income.
income.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a
And,
big one. you got to stay on the road, right?
So what have you found your biggest obstacle has been, or your most eye opening, I should say, of doing your research? Of, oh my God, I never thought about that part.
I would say everything starts with the coach. Okay, it's like, okay, what coach do we want to be in first? And we're still doing that research,
Yeah.
as you've said 1,000 times.
Floor
Plan, floor plan. And if you're going to be full timer, you need storage on top of that floor plan.
Storage is a big thing.
So we are still looking at different floor plans, and we already have a few narrowed down.
Well,
And
and even like this week, the one that we're renting, we're realizing what can.
Kyle, I'm so sorry. Notice what he just said, renting. Okay, this is a big thing because they're actually renting motor coaches to try them out, which
Yeah.
is something that we advocate people do, and they're actually doing it. So again, kudos for that. So the coach you were renting, you find out now.
And
there's-
on the renting, by the way, we are renting the exact size coach that
Yes.
we would want to purchase in the future. So it's not like we're renting a 32 footer and saying, hey, imagine this, 13 feet larger.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
yes.
Okay.
And I think that was a
We're
big
renting the
thing
size we want.
that we chose because when we were thinking about, renting a coach, we're going to pay a little bit more up front now to rent that size, but it's going to save us thousands of dollars if we make the wrong decision in the future.
Yes.
For sure.
But, even with the one that we rented, it's not ideal. It's a bunk model. We have no children. We have no need for bunks,
But it was what was available in the area.
Exactly. And for us, we're realizing, well, we really don't have this much stuff. And yes, we didn't bring all of our clothes and all of our things that we would normally have, but it's like, okay, there's actually a lot more space for this over here or that over there. And we're starting to learn what could we really pare down even already so that we start getting used to living that lifestyle. Because I think a lot of times what I've learned from some of the research that we've been talking about is that people go into this instantly. It's like,
Yes.
today I have a house, tomorrow I have a coach. And it's like, well, no, you have a lot of stuff that goes on in between that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it already, when it comes to planning. Everyone makes fun of me for my spreadsheets. I love my spreadsheets.
Nothing wrong with a good spreadsheet. I love my spreadsheets.
Brenda loves her
too.
spreadsheets.
And I've got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets upon spreadsheets for different parts. I've got a spreadsheet just on Domicile, which is going to be the best for us.
Yeah.
And we update it on the regular because we constantly are checking what things are important. And
They're going to change.
because I'm going to still be working when we go full time. Rich will be kind of pseudo retired.
The plan is that we will both continue to work full time, but I will probably retire before Kyle does.
Right.
So my job right now is completely remote. It doesn't matter where I am, as long as I get my work done and I do it well. I can work anywhere.
And we're finding that nowadays the RV industry is booming because of that.
Right.
The millennials and what have you do have work at home jobs, and as long as they have internet, they can work from anywhere they are basically. And so the RV industry right now is in one of its biggest stages it's ever been in history, and that's due to technology and being able to work from home. And this started after unfortunately 2008. And the economy crashed, and all the companies sent people home. Mm-hmm. Well, the companies realized they didn't have to bring the people back. They didn't have to do all this office space rental and stuff like that. And so in 2011, 2012, as the workforce started to come back, they started realizing they didn't have to bring the workforce back to get the workforce.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you got enter the millennials who are now doing all this online work and what have you, and as long as they have internet, they can work, and so they're choosing to travel. Yeah. And the RV industry is...
Yeah. So I'm fortunate that I already, if we wanted to go tomorrow, I could. You're in a different...
I've still got student loans.
You're a chiropractor.
Well, yes.
Correct?
So I have my own practice, and I've been in practice now about 4 years, and the business now is almost paid off, where now it's starting to pay down the student loans. And the goal is to really get that student loan paid down, and as soon as we do, sell the practice and hit the road. And really just, I'll switch careers, which I think a lot of people, when they go into the RV life, they don't really think about career switching as well, and how are they going to make that transition. And there's a lot of jobs out there that you don't need to have a 4-year degree in that specific field. And that's what I'm even learning. Like, I've started doing research into what is my next career going to be. I can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but how do I make a career out of it?
Yeah.
And I think, again, even when you're on the road, you still need to have something to do. You cannot be just living in a coach. Even
you can't be on a forever vacation.
Well, that's it. People actually, we run into that a lot. Like, even our family still. They literally, you guys are still on vacation. No, we live, we work here. Now, don't get me wrong. My family knows that we work and we do stuff. But it's that mindset that it's not a, it's not a forever vacation, which is the right way you said it.
And I want to add a comment on that as well. I think there are certain ages that decide to go full timing. Mm-hmm. And full timing used to be, up until probably the last 10 years, it was really more of a retired person's
65
thing,
plus.
right? Yeah, it was a 60, 65 plus, people who had already saved the nest egg. Mm-hmm. And they can just retire and live happily ever after. And what we're setting up is our financial future, I think, the right way. And I would give the same advice to anyone considering doing this is, if you're still of working age like we are, you have to have a plan of not just to break even on the road, right? Because I hear so many people say, oh my gosh, look how inexpensive RVing is. I don't have a mortgage, I don't have this, I don't have that, and I can make X dollars a year and we can live on the road. But I think what people also need to think about is, well, what about your retirement funds? What about funding your your future while you're on the road?
When you can no longer RV.
When you can no longer RV, right? What type of savings and investments do you have for the future? So these are all things that we're taking our time on to do it right. So there's so many things. So there's the actual physical coach you're going to live in.
Right.
And then the domicile. You asked what's the most difficult. I think for us,
we've got a couple of states in mind, but again, it all depends. Cause
for me, that's the most confusing part of it, is where to domicile and then the insurance, right?
Well, because that changes. You know,
It's gonna
are you
keep
on
changing.
Medicare? Are you on
Right.
or not? And are you paying for your own insurance, or is your company? And it all depends. Like as we discovered, Florida is one of the few places, if you're getting your own personal insurance, is one of the few places left that you can get nationwide coverage.
Yeah, Texas and South Dakota, you can no longer get nationwide coverage.
Well, that's
So
hard.
Florida's your only choice if you need to buy your own insurance.
Right.
So, and not everybody's in that boat. So that's
Right.
why it's important to research what's best for you and not just blankly go up on Facebook and say, what's the best domicile state? Because everybody's going to give their opinion of what's best for them.
Right.
And everybody's different.
So I know you've been looking at different coach lines. You've actually understand when they're out, they rented this motor coach and came out here. They chose us for their vacation for some reason. But what I just said is important. They're actually using their vacation to rent a motor coach to learn more about motor coaching and what they like and don't like. So it's not like they just have the money to go out and just rent a motor coach and go. They're actually using vacation time and what they would normally use for vacation money to do it.
Yes.
And I think that's a very smart use of funds, especially when you're looking forward to your future and doing something like this.
Yeah.
Well, and we even brought work to emulate what it's going to be like to have to work on the road, you know, because
which is important, yeah.
Because I think it's really important. Are we able to work in the setup that we have? If not, then it's not the right coach and the floor plan for us. We really need to make sure that we're going to be able to comfortably work, not just work, because you figure if I'm still working full time, that's 8 hours a day that I'm sitting at a desk or a table, and if I can't do it comfortably, that's going to be a long, miserable day every day.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And when you're renting the coach, you do get into the nitty-gritty of what things you want that are on your want list, like the heated floors, the washer and dryer, the dishwasher.
Yeah. So we've gone how many RV shows now? Probably.
Well, that's what I was
4
leading
or
to.
5.
That's what I was leading to. You rented this one. It's fine. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But they've actually gone to a number of shows and manufacturers already.
Yeah.
We've gone to drivable. So we live right outside of DC, about 30 minutes outside of DC in Northern Virginia. So we've been to the one at the Dulles Expo Center.
We've done that one like
we
2
went
or
to
3
Harrisburg,
times.
Pennsylvania.
Concord.
We drove to Concord, North Carolina.
You've been to Tampa.
I flew to the big Tampa Super Show in January.
We've done 3 or 4 in Texas.
We flew to Texas. Yep, we went to 3.
A lot of
4.
A lot of research.
Yeah. Well,
They're not really looking to buy their RV groupies. And they're just, they really like to just get involved with people's lives and, figure things out, I guess.
No, but you know where it came in? We were looking, we said, okay, wow, Newmars, okay? Well, when you go to, for example, I won't mention names, but a place that sells Newmars, you're only going on Newmars. I wanted to go from a Newmar to an Integra to a Tiffin to a Ford Travel to, I want to feel each coach and experience. Yeah,
without
like within
having
minutes.
to travel all over the country.
Right,
Because
because
you
you
forget.
literally, you forget.
Yeah.
So there's so many things to learn about coaches and about what you're going to be happy with and what you're going to hate.
Well, that's like some of the coaches that we were on, you would close a cabinet and the whole thing would just rattle. And it was like, could you imagine living with that? Or you have a solid wood door and it's like,
Right.
this is what we want. We want
Right.
solid wood. We don't want something that's going to... And again, that price point changes. And
Yes.
I think one of the big things, my patients always comment, they're like, well, how much are these things? They're like 50,000, 100,000. I'm like, you have to remember, it's like your home. It's not, you're investing in a house. You're not investing in a motor vehicle that you're just driving down the road. You're living in it full time. And I think a lot of people forget that when they're not of the mindset of living full time in a motor coach.
Yeah, for
and, you know, that's kind of been one of the big things that we've learned is that really getting into the nitty gritty and like literally opening every cabinet. The coach that we're in right now, when you lift the cabinet door up, it doesn't stay open, it slams shut. But it doesn't, if you let it go closed, it doesn't slam all the way. So you still got to push the door closed. And it's like, well, that's a really stupid hinge. Like, why would you do that? But it's like little things like that that we're learning about the rental. And
and different manufacturers and how they cheap out one way versus the other.
Well, even the cupboards.
These cabinets are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, these cabinets up here, for example, you open the cabinet and you got a full cabinet. Some motor coaches.
That's our toaster oven.
Yeah, that's our toaster oven.
Right.
You open up the cabinet and it's only a half a cabinet because they're doing stuff. The bulkhead is up there or whatever. But yet when it's closed, it looks like a big cabinet. Yeah. And it's not.
Yeah. So there's just so many things to learn about physical coaches, and you need to take your time. You can't rush it, because when you rush anything, you're bound to make mistakes. And in this, that equates to many thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And that's why we've, as you know, and you mentioned, we've talked about floor plan. You've all heard us, those of you who follow us a lot, floor plan, floor plan, floor plan.
Yes.
And as they're discovering, you know, they can look at a motor coach and go, ooh, nah, but once, like, this is the first one they rented, now they're actually experiencing what that means.
Living in it for a full week.
Learning the little systems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are the noises you hear?
That was the first
1 o'clock in the morning. What motor is running right
Your
now?
first shower in the tiny little corner shower.
That was an interesting experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
But, you know, and it's not even that. It's learning different schedules. So, you know, cleaning. I'm gone all day long. So when you have somebody, I'm trying to cook, and our kitchen is tiny, which that is a definite must, is understanding your kitchen size, because
in the motor coach.
Yes.
They have a huge this is like 3 times the size of our kitchen, and you know, I'll be cooking something and all of a sudden the Swiffer comes by and I'm like, can you just wait till I'm done
That's me.
cutting up like the tomato? Like, so we're learning like how to schedule around each other, and you really have to relearn how to live together. I never thought any of that. Like, that was never on my radar, even thinking about moving into a motor coach, was how to relive with one another. And
we didn't have that issue.
Or like you had told me earlier in the week, you get up really early, like 6 o'clock in the morning, and Rich doesn't. So, well, you can't just come out and turn the TV on if he's sleeping, or what do you do? So, you know, wireless headphones or something. Yeah. Something to try and just pass the time.
Oh yeah, and you know, there's certain things that we are finally getting on to a schedule about, and I think that that's the biggest thing. Is like living full time. It's about schedules. You know, you do this at this time, and that really helps mitigate some of the frustration or the arguments that may have occurred if you didn't have that. And we get along really well to begin with, and I think that that's another big thing. You have to really like the person.
You have to like the person.
Not love, but like.
Yes. I heard that advice. Somebody said, oh, but we love each other. We can do this. And another person on, I don't remember what channel, said, you need to like each other. You need to like being around each other a lot.
That's a good point.
And that's key.
Because you can get on each other's nerves, and then where are you going to go? You're in 400
right
square
there.
feet. You know, you go outside for a walk is basically it.
Exactly.
You know,
get in the car, drive away, or whatever. But hopefully you come back.
Yeah.
Or when you come back, the coach is still there.
Well, we joked about that.
But is it clean? Did the Swiffer come out?
Exactly.
You know,
Perfect timing.
Yes.
But yeah, full timing is a whole different, you know, there's so many facets of going full time on the road. We discovered that too, and we did take our time and we did research motor coaches and what have you, and don't forget, we owned a motor coach.
We didn't go as far as renting one, but we
owned
one ahead of time.
Right.
Yes.
So our first motor coach was purchased new in 2008, and so we didn't go full time until 2013. So we had all this time, you know, experienced the motor coach lifestyle and everything and knew it was right for us because we bought one when we still had our house.
Right.
Some people are selling houses and buying motor coaches without even doing the research.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
They've got
to say
the dream,
least.
but not the practicality part
Yeah.
of it
Yeah.
yet.
And then you got people like Rich, who is really extreme with the amount of research he does to the
But we love
umpteenth
it.
level.
We love it.
But he knows, but he knows, and he's going to know what he needs when that time comes. And they pull the trigger.
Is there such a thing as too much research? I don't think there is.
No, because everything's constantly changing.
It
so
is.
Right.
you've kind of got to be aware of it. But the renting process has been interesting in and of itself too.
Yeah, the renting, I recommend for anybody considering full-timing, you have to rent before you make decisions on anything. Okay,
Yeah.
just rent it and experience it before you make decisions. The other thing that I was just thinking of is thinking about your future, right? Because I've heard so many people say there needs to eventually be an exit plan.
Yes.
Okay.
We didn't think about that. We just know we'll buy a house someday when we want to.
Yeah, and
But we never really thought about
but
an exit
there
plan.
Eventually, right? The facts are because of either health or age,
Or
there
lack of
will
one.
there will come a
Time.
point in
Yeah.
time where you need to hang up the keys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are certain people that own a coach and they find a place to park it, and that is their
That's it.
last home. That's it. Other people, like, sticks and bricks, right? Do you go back to sticks and bricks? And if that's going to be the case, are you going to just buy another home?
Yeah.
Or in our case, we'll have two homes that are paid for, and we can go back to one or both of those, right, at some point in the future.
And this is where lies the argument of Brenda and I, a little bit. Not an argument, but
Do we argue?
No, we don't argue. I was going to say, see, we consider ourselves full-timers. True full-timers is the word, actually, because we don't own anything else.
Right.
Okay, we don't have a place to go back. Now,
If something doesn't work out, we can't just say, "Oh, forget this,"
go
and
back to
just
the
go
house.
back to
Right.
the house.
Now, so when we say they're going to go full-time, they plan on living full-time in a motor coach and renting properties that they own.
Right.
Okay? So they're not true full-timing it because they have a place they can go.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a
See, and
minute.
that's the argument
No, the
because I'm
rent-
like, no,
so-
you are full-timing it because you'll be renting
So-
your places. You can't go back there.
Yeah, so part of our retirement plan is, and this could change, but we think that by renting the properties out, that will be a source of income for
Covering the coach.
X number of years to cover coach expenses
Right.
or coach mortgage, right?
Mhm.
So,
But you do have that safety net to go back.
Yes, that is
well,
true.
but if we have full-time, long-term renters, we don't.
See, but that's where you make your mistake.
Okay.
Don't do full-time, long-term renting contracts, for at least for the first few years. You're probably, I don't know how most people do because we never rented our house or considered renting a house, but you're probably your leases at least.
I never did either
So-
until
We're
a year ago, right? When we started researching
yeah.
this whole thing. I know. I'm so picky about the way we keep things and the condition of the house, and there's a lot of trust when you rent it out to someone.
Well, the nice thing is we do have family there on top of a property management company, because you
If
hear
we
horror
have
stories,
that, yeah.
right? But you hear horror stories of property management, so it's nice to have family that kind of double checks everything to make sure
Yeah.
everything's still up to par to where we
That's
want
good.
it.
That works
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So what have you been finding? Have you considered when the time comes, even though you're still going to have the houses or what have you, you're going to downsize at some point of stuff.
We've already started.
Okay, I was going to say,
Yeah.
so where do you have that time frame of how you're going to downsize or what you're going to do?
I would get rid of everything tomorrow. I'm good about getting rid of stuff. Oh no,
Except your baby grand piano. That's an issue.
that is. I've
you
already
can't
started.
just strap that to the roof.
Well, we've talked about that too. Could be like a Priscilla, Queen of the Desert type situation.
There you go. Tow vehicle, pickup truck,
Oh my
stick
God.
it in the back of the pickup truck. There
Well,
you
we
go.
thought about a dual stack trailer and put the Jeep in one and the piano on the other. I mean, there's options.
And charge a fee for people to listen to you
That's
play.
right.
And help pay the diesel costs,
Then,
right?
then you'd have to tune it every time you.
That's right. Every time you
know.
stop, you got to tune it. That's right.
Exactly. But no, in all seriousness, like downsizing for me is not a problem. I've lived in 300 square feet myself before, and I loved it. I mean, there's something about knowing that every single piece of whatever you have in your space has a point, has a purpose, and that there is nothing more that you're bringing in without it going out. And I've already started living by the rule that if I buy a new piece of clothing or I buy something, something else goes out already.
Yep.
That's a big rule.
And I think a lot of times, again, people coming into the coach life, they don't know how to live minimally. We are such a society, I think, of having a lot of things that we forget how to be minimalist. And the millennial generation, I think, has captured that, and they're good at that. It's the people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are having the harder time downsizing into that. And that's, for me, like I said, I've got probably 2 totes in our house, and that's it. That's all that I need. And I've got clothes and stuff, but other than that, I've been cooking out of 1 pot the entire week.
Yeah, that's
because I thought our 3 pots were induction, but turns out only 1 of them is. So know if it's induction or not, because that makes a huge difference when you're renting for a week.
I was surprised they didn't furnish the pans or anything in there.
Well, they don't cook.
Oh,
that's
right. That's right. The one you rented.
Disposable,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the renting process too. Like we're learning, and I think a lot of people, if you guys decide to rent, it's really important to think about what kind of things are you going to have to bring with you. We actually have a checklist of everything that we were thinking, okay, we might need this, we might need this.
For weeks. It took weeks to do the checklist because we thought once we hit the road for 8 days, 9 days, we weren't towing a car, by the way. Okay, we're just driving a 45-foot coach and no tow car because you cannot tow a vehicle when you rent. So we knew that once we got to this RV park, Southwoods, we were basically going to be here. So we thought, okay, we have to go through every little herb and spice that we use to cook with. We have to go through our daily routine to think about what to pack and what to bring.
And even on so we packed everything into the coach on Thursday night, and we thought we were ready to go. And on Friday, I was like, oh, we need this, we need this, we need this, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, getting like showered and ready to go, and now we have this huge pile yet that still had to come with us. And it was like, oh, we didn't even think about that.
But with full timing and downsizing, we've just found that starting to downsize, if you're excited about really going full time, it's an exciting process to downsize.
Yeah,
like
it is.
Going through the closets and all these, the
Get rid of the
garage
winter
and
coats.
stuff. We have piles of stuff
don't
get rid of it.
Not the way the weather's been.
We have piles of garage sale items.
We still remember when we sold our house and we were getting stuff out and donating and things like that, finding boxes in the basement. We're from upstate New York, so we had a basement. Finding boxes in the basement that were packed from our previous house that never got unpacked.
Right.
They were never even opened. And we're like, what's in these boxes? Obviously, we didn't need it in the 7 years we were in that house.
So it's amazing how much that you collect.
You just don't need,
Well, we were doing something similar. I was cleaning out the basement for the garage sale that we're going to have, and I found teacups in there, and Rich is like, where are those from? I'm like, well, they're yours. I don't even remember buying these.
Someone gave these antique teacups
they're beautiful.
that are worth money. And I was like, well, I'm not throwing these out. I'll sell them, right? And they've been sitting for years. We have to sell them.
Yeah.
If you want teacups, antiques,
we're eventually going to have a garage sale. For 3 years, we're having a garage sale.
For 3 years.
So what have you found? So in your prep, you're doing a lot of research, as we've stressed many times, which is good. So what have you found is your most daunting, or I go back to the thing of what was your most surprising thing? I mean, was it the amount of different coaches or how they're made, or you thought they were all the same, or did you find that health insurance was a bigger concern than you thought, or is it, what was your...
I think for me, it's been the differences within coaches in and of themselves. Like, to really understand every nook and cranny and how different everything is constructed. Newmar has batting and, a true, almost like a house-like insulation in them, versus other brands where it's just a laminate and you've got kind of like a styrofoam. Understanding that, or even like how the thickness of the walls. If you're in something that you're living in full time and you have a thin wall, someone could be trying to sleep or take a nap and you can't barely do anything because they're going to hear you. Or you know, how things rock. You know, if you have a coach that really rocks every time you walk, you know, that's another big thing to
That would
consider.
get annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned early on when we started traveling white noise machine.
Yes.
And so
for sleeping. Yeah.
So
We did a blog post on
we did a
that.
whole blog
Yeah.
post on just using a
Video,
white
yeah.
noise machine for the exact thing you just mentioned.
I think on your daunting question, so for me, the fun of it is shopping for the actual vehicle, right? It's like just keep narrowing down. For me, the daunting part is still the domicile, making the right decision, and taking tax considerations, right, into play, because depending on what state you live in and what state your residency is in depends on your sales tax when you purchase a coach, right?
Especially since you both will be working your income tax too.
Will make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Well,
And then health
though.
insurance is, you know, another thing to keep in mind.
I don't think we're as worried about that because my industry is health, right? So I'm used to looking at OOBies. I'm used to looking at insurances, understanding what our policies are going to be. And Rich had to buy insurance for himself for a number of years. And I would go through and read all the policies line by line because that's what I do.
That's good.
You know, so for me,
Yeah.
and I think kind of what we've talked about, people don't understand how a policy works. You may have a great policy in your state, and as soon as you hit the road, it's diddly. It doesn't mean anything when you're in Arizona or whatever. My mom's a great example. She has phenomenal Cadillac insurance in Minnesota, but when she goes to Arizona, she has to, it's all emergency room based. If she doesn't use the emergency room, everything's out of pocket. And so for her, it's, you know, 6 months out of the year, she doesn't have really insurance.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people forget that. And it's not just individuals in the motor coach industry, it's people in general who snowbird or travel outside of their home state for any length of time.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we get asked a lot is, well, how do you deal with doctors or dentists or what have you on the road? And again, having first off the proper insurance to deal with that is one thing. But in regards to dentists or doctors or having to go somewhere, we will find, if we need a dentist, we'll find a dentist. Okay, and we'll use Yelp reviews and things like that if something comes up. And that has happened. I mean, we've had to deal with stuff like that on the road.
You lose a filling or something, and you can't wait 6 months to get back
to your dentist.
To your dentist, you know, wherever that may be. So you've got to find somebody.
So we collect them as we travel.
Yeah.
We have a dentist in Arizona. We have a dentist in New York. We have
well, like
a
my
chiropractor.
I have a chiropractor in Arizona. I have one in Texas. I have one here in New York.
Yeah. So
like collect them around the country.
I'll have one on the road.
Yeah.
Built-in chiropractor. Yeah.
Built in.
Yeah. So dealing with things like that on the road, it sounds weird, but it's hit and miss.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on where you are at the time, too. I mean, if you're in Rodeo, New Mexico, you have very minute, choices of what you're going to do. You're going to travel somewhere for a doctor or a dentist or what have you.
One note that I'd make to that, though, is that no matter where you go, always have an electronic copy of your records with you. 100%. So when you leave the state that you're currently in, get everything backed up for currently through that time that you were there, because I can't tell you how many times I have patients that come into my office and they're like, oh, I need my records, and it takes 2-3 weeks, and you might be gone by that point. You might be on to your next camp site going, well, I didn't have my records, and now they're en route, but, because I refuse to send anything electronically unless I know it's specifically going. I still use the fax machine because I know that that's probably my most secure way to make sure that those records get to where they need to be.
You're whacked. Fax machine.
I know. Hey, my fax machine goes 24/7. I'll probably have a stack of papers when I get back there, or I'll be out of paper by the time I get back.
Well, and here's something interesting we found while traveling around the country. We have our most current health history and everything printed on paper.
Yes.
Because we used to carry a little flash drive, and this one here decides to have a kidney stone at 2 o'clock in the morning in Madison, Wisconsin, and so we go to the hospital.
This is why you make your plans in Jell-O.
Yes.
Because a 2-day stay in Madison, Wisconsin turned into a month and a half.
Yes.
Wow.
2 surgeries. Thank you.
Yes.
I do things right.
When you do them, you do them
When
big.
I do a kidney stone, man, I go all the way. 2 surgeries.
Anyway, a lot of hospitals in different places won't want to put a strange flash drive in their computer.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Or you hand them a flash drive and they'll be like, well, we need this for your records. I'm not going to take the time to put it in the computer, find it, print it out. have an
easy to
actual
scan.
piece of paper with your health history, your medications, any surgeries you've had, anything important like that, and have it on a physical piece of paper.
That's
Well,
a good
one thing
point.
that might even be a great thing to consider is download a intake form from any major medical facility and fill it out before you leave, because then you have it all filled out, all ready to go, current to time. Because otherwise, again, you're trying to sift through all those documents. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I had a patient come into me right before I left, and I'm not exaggerating. They brought me 3 discs worth of information that they wanted me to sift through on an hour-long exam. And I'm like, it's going to take me more than an hour just to get through all the information. I can't sift through that
Yeah.
in that time. So having everything there, so it's on just a couple of pieces of paper so I can flip through it, it'll make your provider's life so much easier, and they'll be so much happier to see all of that
Oh, for
versus
sure.
trying to go through years of documentation, because a lot of it's redundant anyways.
Right.
Yeah, and then you'll have more time with the doctor to
Exactly.
talk to them and explain what's going on then and there, and not, what happened in your history.
So, what are you looking most forward to in going full time? Is it the freedom of not having the overhead, or is it just the travel?
It's, for me, it's not the overhead. I've been accustomed to that for many years now. It's getting out of the congestion, the hustle bustle, just the craziness, where we live.
The East
okay?
Coast craziness.
You said
Yeah,
currently,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to bash
things
East
out.
Coast, but-
Things out in the West. When you go from east to west, it's much different.
Yeah.
It's,
It is.
So it's taking time. It's
Quality time.
seeing it, quality time. Another thing I'll say is, when you start watching or start getting excited about I'm in a full-time RV, 95% of what we see on the internet with RVing is all positive. It's, we're staying in this beautiful park. We're going to these waterfalls today. We're eating this, lobster sandwich. We're just, it's like vacation, right? It's constant vacation. And no, you have a whole life you're living, right? When you're full time, there's
Yeah.
a regular life. There's things that have to be done.
there's maintenance.
There's maintenance, there's health, there's
Regular
fitness,
Yeah.
there's eating properly and not,
There's the flu and being in bed for
Oh,
5
gosh.
days.
Yeah.
in a little
and-
cubicle.
And a
room.
In a
little-
little
right.
cubicle where
yeah.
you have a partner that you're trying to keep healthy.
Right. Which
And
is
you're
right
living
over
in
there.
400 square feet.
Right. So,
Make sure you got a good sofa bed.
it's so easy to say, I want to do this full time because I'm watching these people on videos
Look at the
that
great
are
times they're having.
Yeah,
Look at the
they're-
beautiful views.
they're 3 minutes to 30-minute videos and
Yeah.
everything is perfect. It's wonderful. Well, that's like living on Facebook.
Yeah,
okay?
nobody tells you the bad stuff.
Right.
And yeah.
So it's like you got
Well,
to put
David
all of
does.
it together. And you got to consider everything before saying, is this the move we want to make for long term?
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking forward to is slow travel. I don't want to rush,
Yeah.
and being able to live just more freely and happily and continue working and
In the
doing our
moment.
part, right, for ourselves and for society, and just taking a breath.
Well, the good news is if you live that way, you'll save yourself a lot of money. Now, you say that because usually when people first start RVing, they go, 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 go. And they
Right.
move, they move, and they move.
Which we did.
Which we did.
When we
Yeah.
first had our coach,
We know this
we
from
were
first-hand
exploring all over,
experience.
yes.
We explored, and I can put this in a perfect example. We owned our first coach from 2008 to 2013 and put 79,000 miles on it. We've owned this coach since,
2014 we gave that coach up.
okay, sorry,
Another year.
okay, stand corrected.
2008 to
We
2014.
put all those miles on
Yes.
it, is my point.
Yes.
Now, from 2004, what year would you like to call this
14.
one? Okay, 14 till now,
Yes.
we've only put 24,000 miles on this coach.
Yes.
Right.
Now, so before we were go, 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 and in go, 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 that's fuel costs,
Yeah.
that's rent,
Yeah.
because it's cheaper to stay somewhere a month than it is a week,
Yeah.
than it is a weekend.
Yeah.
So so you can, if you're going to go slow and do your own pace, you can actually save yourself a considerable amount of money than always being on the go, travel.
Yeah.
So in any case,
and
that's
you
kind
won't
of,
feel so exhausted because if you're only someplace for 3 days, you feel like
you
you
feel
have
like
to
you got to
see it
do
all.
everything.
Oh,
yeah.
and
You know,
you got to
if you're-
set up, you got to break down, you've got to.
Yeah, if you're there for 2
Yeah.
weeks, you've got some days in between to breathe and to actually relax, and then let's go out to that waterfall today, and then tomorrow
Right.
we'll stay home and watch a movie or something.
Exactly.
You know, it's
So, I'll switch subjects, going back to motor coaches.
okay.
Now, do you, when you're looking at different motor coaches and you've looked at a lot of different brands, do you have a price point in mind? Are you trying to stay within a certain dollar value? Because we did. When we started looking, we knew we wanted to be between 300 and, I mean, it's going to sound like a lot, but 300 and 600,000, because that actually covers 2 different
It does.
levels of coach.
Yeah.
And we found out that the Allegro bus one, and then the next one up from this is the Zephyr. We found we didn't have to spend $200,000 more for a Zephyr because we got everything we needed in
Right.
an Allegro
In the
bus.
yeah.
And it didn't make any sense to us to spend that money to have a Zephyr. So in any case, do you have a...
So, yeah.
I'm a little more on the frugal side of not wanting to spend money if we don't have to, but I also don't want to jeopardize quality and cheap out, so to speak, on something just because I want to save a few bucks. I would rather spend the money, but we're looking...
Okay, so the first deal is, are you going to purchase new or used?
Yes.
Right? Because there's
That's
a
a big one.
huge difference just in that.
Yes.
Where we are right now, there are so many benefits of buying a new coach, right? No one's ever touched it or used it. It's yours from day one, just like buying sticks and bricks brand new.
You get all the new technology and everything.
Yes.
As new as it can be on a
As
motor
new
coach.
as it can be in a
So,
motor coach.
you know,
Who seem to be behind in everything.
so the upsides of new versus purchasing used where someone else took the hit on depreciation, right?
Yeah.
So we're still balancing that. We're leaning towards something that's lightly used, maybe 2,
3 years.
3 years old, okay?
It's a good compromise.
Where it has the technology. We want something that was also used moderately, okay, not overly driven, but also nothing that was sitting there for 2 to 3 years,
'Cause that
because you're going to
hurts.
have systems that are hurt by that.
Yeah.
So we're looking for that. So I would say where we are right now, we're probably thinking the same between 300,000 and 600,000
Yeah,
on a
that's
coach.
because we figured out that covers a couple different classifications. Or if you wanted to go with something more, like a Ford Travel or something like that, you would be able to go on the used side of that.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So, and realizing that, some people say, well, we're just going to pay cash for the coach. I don't see a purpose in doing that when you can have your money in investments and
Making
retirement
money.
funds making money. And that's why you need to watch what you spend on the coach. Will your monthly mortgage payment be the same or lower than what you're currently paying for bricks and sticks or rent if you rent,
Yeah.
right?
Well, we'll be making money from renting
And
the property,
still
which is-
also having a source of income, right, if you're not of retirement age. So, yeah, but that's I think where we are.
Well, there's a lot of things to consider. Obviously, we full-time and have been for a number of years now. Obviously, you all know that. Well, not all of you. Some of you who know who we are have been following us for a while, like they have. There is a lot to consider, but the biggest thing, the biggest surprise that I think that we still get is the number of people who don't realize things like mail service, or don't realize things like, do I need a CDL driver's license to drive a coach?
Right.
Or that it matters of what driver's license you do have, because if you're driving out of class and you get into an accident, I don't care what insurance you have, you're not covered.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure the state that you're domiciled in, that you have your registration and everything, you have to make sure that you have the proper driver's license.
Yes.
New York State, for example, if you're over 26,000 pounds, a recreational vehicle over 26,000 pounds, you need a Class R driver's license. And you actually have to take a written test for that and a driving test for that.
Which we did
Yeah.
when we were New York residents.
And actually the distinction on the driver's license does have an R distinction as a on our driver's license. And if we didn't have that and something happened, insurance would not back us one bit because we'll probably get a ticket too because we're driving out of class. So
and proper insurance, right? If you're full timing,
and there's a difference.
You need full timers insurance, not just recreational part time insurance.
Yes, and there's a lot of people that try to skirt that and say, "Oh, I'm saving so much more money by just getting regular RV insurance."
No.
And something happens, you're not going to be covered because they find out you're living in it full time.
Yeah.
You don't have that coverage.
You're not going to have the coverage.
Yep.
Yeah. So the surprising things to us that we hear from people and that we kind of like, you guys really didn't know that, are things like, the health insurance and not being nationwide, and the driver's license issue, and the actual proper insurance for your motor coach, and a proper mail forwarding company.
Yes.
Because those differ greatly too.
Yes.
So
yes, not all mail forwarding services can be your legal domicile. Not all post office boxes.
Legal address.
Yes, your legal domicile address.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Right.
And not all P.O. boxes can be your legal address. Some UPS stores, you can rent a box anywhere, but it may not be able to be your legal address.
Yeah.
So a lot of research needs to go into that.
Yeah, so these are all the things that we've been learning about, and you can only learn it by putting in the hours of research. You're going to have to learn it one way or the other.
Yep.
You're either going to learn it by doing hours of research and being proactive, or you're going to learn it when you get into trouble.
And it costs you money.
And it costs you a lot of money to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And things are constantly changing,
Yeah.
and the legal domiciles are changing, all sorts of things. So you have to keep on top of it too. You can't just say, okay, Florida's my legal domicile, and 5 years down the road, you find out something's changed, and all of a sudden, that address that you're using may not be able to be your legal address anymore, or something.
Banks, that's another one. Banks, you have to have a street address, a physical street address, not a business address, a physical street address for a bank, because if not, well, we ran into it where we didn't know that the bank found out that. I don't know. They just did a scan or something someday and found out that we had a mail forwarding service.
Our address is a legal
address.
Street address.
But the bank said, nope, it doesn't qualify for us, and you have 3 days to correct this, or we're going to freeze your accounts.
Wow.
And it's under the terrorism laws.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So we literally had to give an address. Our sister-in-law, my sister-in-law, her sister address in Florida. I actually said to the guy, he goes, we just need a physical address to put on file. I said, well, put your address on file. He goes, well, I can't do that. He goes, I can't. I said, why not? He goes, well, because it's not true. I said, well, you just asked me to give you my sister-in-law's address, but that's not our true address either, so you might as well use yours. Well,
what's the difference?
Well, I see your point, but that's not. You need a physical address.
Yeah, it's like a catch-22. It's.
So heads up on that too.
Yeah, and there's some people out there that say, oh yeah, well our mail forwarding service is our legal address, and that is true for us too. But banks follow a different regulation, and it will catch up to them at some point.
So if you learned anything from this discussion, is there's a lot of moving targets, and just jumping into going full time. By selling your house and then realizing, hey, how do you guys handle your mail? Right. That's not a good thing. And unfortunately, we see that much too often being talked about online. And we feel bad for those people who did that, because they're realizing real quick that they've gotten themselves into something that is probably going to end up costing them a good penny. So doing research before you go full time is important. And in doing research, if you can rent a motor coach of different classifications, different sizes, if you're looking, unless you know the size you want, different types and quality or classes
Floor
of motor
plans.
coaches, and looking at different floor plans. If you can afford to do so, please rent a motor coach ahead of time.
Yeah.
And short of doing that, it's not a bad idea, like we did, is to buy your first motor coach while you still own property, and then travel. And then we considered ourselves most timers. We were 7 to 8 months on the road, and then we finally decided, what are we doing with all this overhead? And sold everything and went truly full time. So,
But being in that coach, we knew what worked for us and what we wanted in a full-time coach.
And right now, even when we're looking to someday get another motor coach to replace this one, we already have our checklist. Heated floors, dishwasher, separate washer, separate dryer. Things like that are must-haves for us. So, we learned as far as the motor
space.
coach.
Lots
of storage
space.
space, yes.
Yeah.
Ant.
Why?
Sorry.
This is live.
This is live. Don't like ants. Just so you know.
Guess you showed him who's boss there.
Yeah. Any case. Hey, listen. We're going to leave on that note, okay? We've been sitting here talking with Rich and Kyle, two OOBie friends of ours who've been following us for a while, who are looking to go full-time in the near future, 3 to 5 years out still, that are doing an exorbitant amount of research, which is good, and a lot of spreadsheeting.
Yes.
Which is good.
Which is good. We just wanted to just touch base on and talk to them. I mean, they came out, they rented a motorhome to try it out, and they like I said earlier, they chose for some reason to come visit us. We have no idea. Being in upstate New York, while it's
in the
pretty,
middle of cornfields.
in the middle of cornfields,
It's June and it's 48 degrees at night.
There's not much to do out here.
That
We
is
got to
unusual.
use floor heat at night.
Yes.
Yeah. It's great though.
But yeah, from everything from health insurance to RV insurance and making sure you have the right proper insurance, because if you full time, it's a different insurance than if you're just doing a weekend or a weekly thing. 2 different insurances.
Really quick, let me interject there. Also, full-timers insurance, just like any other household insurance, has its limits. So if you do have computers or televisions or anything in there that you want extra coverage on, you are going to have to add that too.
Yes.
Just
You're
like
going
Sticks
to do
and
that.
Bricks house,
Yeah.
there's different coverages.
And on RVs and things like that, the coverages are pretty low to start with, so you will have to add on top of that umbrella policies and what have you. Because, put it this way, like MacBook Pros like I use, a typical policy would base, if we lost our entire coach, personal property effect wise, would probably replace my computer. I mean,
and nothing else.
Personal property. So you actually,
so no more cameras or live videos.
We can't do this
for you,
anymore. So I mean that in the extreme sense. What I mean is just make sure you have the proper, because it is lower than a house normally is, because they're smaller rigs. You don't carry as much. So therefore, the
and
personal
they don't know what
properties,
you're going to put in it.
the personal property starts lower at a dollar value. So you're always going to have that umbrella policy on that. And a lot of people don't know that. They just assume. But in any case, so we decided to ask them if they wanted to go and do this crazy thing, go live. It's not our normal type of thing. We're not sitting around a campfire. We're talking about a subject matter.
They pride us with wine.
And we figured we'd get them to talk a little bit, and they did. So we thank you very much for doing this.
You're welcome.
It's not our normal type show, as you know.
A lot of good information.
But there was information that people should know about, that's for sure. So we hope you got something out of this. I'm David.
I'm Brenda.
I'm Rich.
I'm Kyle.
That's good. That's good. We're from OutsideOurBubble.com.
They're from Virginia.
They're from Virginia.
Not as cool.
But any case, I hope you guys learned something from this. We're out of here. I'm David. I'm Brenda. OutsideOurBubble.com asking you, when's the last time you got outside your bubble? There you go. I was waiting for that.
Yay.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thanks for appreciate it.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Now, how do I turn it off again? I go through this every time, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. I've watched you do this on every video.
You want to push the button?
Yeah. Okay.
Push it again.
I'm outside my bubble.
Slide.